So I might be a little late to the party on this story, but I wanted to see how it shook out before I did any kind of reporting on it. About a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, a journalist, and I'm using the word in the correct way. She is a journalist. Her name is Taylor Lorenz. She put out an article in Wired magazine called "A Dark Money Group is Secretly Funding High Profile Democratic Influencers." And it caused a bit of a ruckus when it came out. It kind of points the finger at several different people and a couple of groups. From what I have read from the article, as well as some interviews that Taylor Lorenz has done, and watching some of the videos of the people that this article is about and how they reacted to it, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You see, the Republican Party has you could definitely tell last year in 2024 how they had saddled up to the, what do you call it? The internet influencer zeitgeist. And that's why you saw JD Vance and Donald Trump and the like going on all of those podcasts, those pod bros, the Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon, Andrew Schultz, all those guys. And also they've been doing it for years, with people like Ben Shapiro, where dark money groups will funnel millions of dollars for advertising for people like Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro, whether or not he is popular, when you have dark money groups paying for advertising, and every time you turn on your social media, whether it's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's Instagram or what have you, advertisements for them will pop up in the feed, and they're not paying for them. A dark money group like the Koch brothers would fund it, or the Wilkes brothers would fund it. These are big oil magnates and big Republican donors. So the Republicans have been doing this for quite a while, and it's worked. A lot of those influencers have done a very good job simping for the Republican Party, and doesn't seem to matter how bad Republican policies are. They still seem to win elections. It's got a lot to do with the fact that they have acolytes out there that will push the propaganda in a more palatable way than a politician could. And in 2024, we saw the results of that. All of those podcasts that the president and the vice president went on, it had an effect. Lots of young men went out there and voted for Donald Trump for the first time. And he won. So the Democrats have never really been very good at it. Notoriously, Joe Rogan's favorite TV show was Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. And he didn't really give two shits about leftist influencers and podcasters on YouTube and what have you. So back in late 2024, a group called I'm going to switch over to this here, a group called the 1630 Fund, which is a dark money group. We don't know who the major donors are. We just see the amounts of money that get funneled in there, and it's in the millions. They funnel money through this group called Chorus, which, by the way, the name Chorus, I haven't heard anybody else mention this, but to me, it is very on the nose, because a chorus, what does a chorus do? They all sing in unison. They're all singing the same thing. And that's kind of what this is. So Chorus gets together about 90 different influencers, paying them various amounts up to $8,000 a month. Now, I was just mentioning a minute ago that Ben Shapiro is getting funded by the Wilkes brothers for like $50 million worth of advertising. So this is a drop in the bucket. But the thing about this Chorus deal is that they make you sign a contract. They won't let you have any lawyers look over it to redline any of the stuff. And you kind of have to make a decision right there on the spot. Also, Chorus gets to vet not just some of the stories that you talk about, but if you wanted to get a politician on, they want to let you know whether or not you can interview that politician. And, they're running talking points. And of course, it's also in the picking process too. They're not going to people like Hassan Piker, who is a very staunch leftist, or Kyle Kalinske, or, Sam Cedar from the Majority Report. They're not going to them to ask them, because neither of those people would ever have signed this contract. They're going to young fledgling. Well, I don't want to say fledgling because some of them have lots of followers, millions of followers, but they're offering them anywhere between $250 a month to $8,000 a month. And a couple of the names that popped up, one was David Pakman. And David Pakman was at the top tier, getting $8,000 a month for this. And the person who co-founded Chorus was Tyler Cohen of the Midas Touch. I believe he works for Midas Touch. He's also got like 4.5 million followers on YouTube. So he's a very popular guy. And he and this guy named Stuart Perlman started Chorus, and they get funding directly from the 1360 Project. I just kind of went over a lot of stuff there. I just wanted to get to a couple of the things here. Let's see here. There are some real great advantages to housing this program in a nonprofit, Wilson said to creators on a Zoom call review by Wired. It gives us the ability to raise money from donors. It also, with this structure, it avoids a lot of the public disclosure or public disclaimers, As soon as you say that, you should automatically, in the back of your mind, going, okay, so this is dark money. We're not talking about who's throwing money in there. It sounds a little shady. Paid for, blah, blah, blah. No, honey, the blah, blah, blah is the important part. Who are you getting money from? Seriously. You talking about Katzenberg money? That's, you don't want that kind of money, but blah, 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 right? That you see on political ads. We don't need to deal with any of that. Your names aren't showing up like on reports filed with the FEC. Yet again, another red flag. Federal Election Committee declined to comment on this. The goal, of course, according to the fundraising deck obtained by Wire, is to build new infrastructure to fund independent progressive voices online at scale. The creators who joined the incubator program, is what they call it, an incubator program, are expected to attend regular advocacy training and daily messaging check-ins. Okay, so you got a daily message check-in? Are they giving you your talking points then? It seems pretty fucking sus here. And daily message check-ins, these messages check-ins are led by Cohen on rapid response days. The creators also have to attend at least 2 Chorus newsroom events per month, which are events Chorus plans, often with lawmakers. So now we're kind of, biasing towards these particular lawmakers. What if you're one of these influencers who wants to stay independent? I guess this is not for you. But to some people, $8,000 a month is life-changing. That's like real money. Now, we're not talking millions of dollars, kind of Ben Shapiro, kind of money, but it's still real money. Elizabeth Dubois, an assistant professor, university research chair in politics, communication, and technology at the University of Ottawa, who has researched the ways influencers are reshaping U.S. political systems, says, we are seeing influencers being pulled into dark campaigns or shadow campaigns where the legal aspect is murky at best. Sometimes it's actually clear that influencers are being used, for example, to evade spending limits. I think that we need to remember that for democracy to thrive, we do need transparency around who is paying for political messages. So essentially, what they're doing is exactly the same kind of shady shit that Republicans do, except at a much smaller money scale. So it's the same thing, it's just less money. So you're being asked to be a little shady, a little corrupt, a little silent, but at the same time, you're not getting paid as much. Let's see here. Let's see. Don Helder, the chief executive of, is this the part that I wanted to read for you? Okay. If the contract for getting money from a particular interest group says that you can't disclose it, then it's pretty simple. You can't take the money. We are living in an era where lots of powerful people have basically taken the rule book and thrown it out of the window. Wilson maintains in a post-publication email that creators are free to work with other groups or to take on partnerships outside of the Chorus program and say whatever they want as part of that work on their own. Keith Edwards, Democratic content creator who has skyrocketed into fame on YouTube since starting his channel last year, has not invited to be part of the program, but believes that the way it was structured seems predatory. He says that he would never agree to take part in a program that was run in secret or wouldn't allow him to disclose funding. What I don't understand is why would you just donate to the creators directly who have already built something and just need to put gasoline on that fire, says Edwards. Democrats at least understand that the internet exists now because they didn't obviously before. So that's good, but they still think influencers are just there to do a terrible direct-to-camera interview. Wait a minute, is he talking about me? That no one watches rather than just treating it like another form of media. The influencers offered the funding were given just days to sign a contract, which was essentially presented on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. At least one cohort was specifically told that they could not have their lawyers redline it. In a group chat formed to discuss contract negotiations, some creators discussed a clause prohibiting the disparagement of other creators. Not being able to criticize anyone else affiliated with Chorus felt restrictive to some, according to the text messages posted in the chat. Eventually, creators in the group chat agreed to drop the issue that they had. I don't think Chorus is out to screw us. Orleans, a creator who was offered $8,000 per month, said in a group chat. Some influencers for Chorus Creator Incubator Program were offered as little as $250 a month. I mean, you're asking a lot for $250 a month. I mean, that is chicken feed. According to one creator who declined to accept the deal, while others offered membership to the Amplifier cohort, which provides up to $8,000 per month. The 1630 Fund has emerged as a powerful fundraiser in democratic spaces. In recent years, the website notes that issues supported by the organization include economic quality, affordable health care, Medicare for all. Obviously, these people are very centrist. Economic equality, affordable health care, climate solutions. God, it sounds so, weak in milquetoast. It sounds like Chuck Schumer wrote this shit. Climate solution, racial solutions, voter access, and other essential social change goals. The organization was founded in 2009 as a liberal response to conservative dark money groups. I guess this has got to do a lot with the fact that in 2010, they did Citizens United, which meant that you could just dump as much dark money into anything that you wanted to because that's considered free speech. 2018, the 1630 Fund provided $141 million to more than 100 left-leaning causes in order to bolster Democratic support during the midterms. They won in the midterms. According to a tax filing obtained by Politico in 2020, the fund distributed more than $400 million, according to organization's public tax filings, which Politico said that was used in efforts to unseat then President Donald Trump in a Republican Senate majority in 2022. 1630 Fund spent $196 million backing state ballot measures on abortion rights heading into the midterms, according to NBC. Just 4 donors accounted for close to 2/3 of the fund's revenue in 2023. According to its tax filings, the largest donor gave $50 million, with others dating $31 million, $21 million, and $13 million, respectively. So we're talking about a very great deal of money being dumped into this, and with some influencers getting paid $8,000 a month, it does not seem like a lot of money, but at the same time, you're asking them to not disclose that you're working for Chorus, to not disclose any of the people that are in Chorus, do not disclose the amount of money that you're getting, and do not talk about the donors that put money into the 1630 project. So, and also to have bi-monthly meetings with chorus and politicians of their choosing that they set up. It's not a contract that I would have signed. Let's put it that way. Now, I want to go to the reaction to this. Now, Taylor Lorenz, in one of the interviews that I saw her do, she said that what she was afraid of when she put this article out was not that, that she was going to get the reaction she did. She was afraid that the group chorus was going to scoop her by going, because, she reached out to them to ask questions. So they knew that an article was going to be coming out in Wired about this. She was afraid that chorus and Tyler Cohen was going to reach out to somebody like the Washington Post and just say, hey, we're in chorus, which by the way is public, but we are part of the 1630 Project, and we get funding and blah, blah, blah about those donors, the people that put the money in there, blah, blah, blah about that. But that thereby getting that information and that story out there, so when she drops the Wired article, it wouldn't hit so hard. But they did not do that. What they did was something a little bit more interesting. Now I go to this. Here's Tyler Cohen. Now look, I like Tyler Cohen. I've seen him do a lot of stuff online, and he's usually pretty good. He's left leaning. Of course, one of the things that he's very lacking on, he does not hardly at all speak about Israel and what they're doing in Gaza. That just so happens to be one of the reasons why I tend to take what he says with a grain of salt, because I know that he is holding back some stuff. Maybe he believes in what Israel is doing. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But he doesn't talk about it very often. Anyway, he is one of the co-creators of Chorus, and this is what he has to say about the article that Taylor Lorenz wrote. I'll give you a couple of clips from this.
At the risk of giving an internet troll more attention, I want to address a piece that Taylor Lorenz wrote yesterday for Wired.
Now, immediately hostile. He's calling her an internet troll. She is a journalist. Look, I'm a commentator. I'm a shitty little podcast commentator. I give you my thoughts. I show you stories and I just give you my thoughts. I don't actually go out and do journalism. I'm not making the phone calls, doing the legwork, asking the questions, re-asking the questions, looking for other sources. And one thing that you need to understand about journalism and journalistic integrity is that you do not reveal your sources, because that could not only jeopardize your future in journalism because people are not going to trust you anymore, but it also could get that source in trouble for sharing that information with you. It is not on her to reveal the sources. It's not on her to release the contract, because she's afraid that if she releases the contract, it's going to be watermarked in a certain way. So Chorus is going to actually know who was the person who gave her that contract. So the responsibility is not on her to release the contract. If you're going to say that that's not part of the contract and she's lying about the contract, it is on you to release the contract, Brian. It's not on her. But he starts it off immediately by calling her an internet troll. That's pretty scummy, man. Pretty scummy.
An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month to push the party line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. Literally nothing in this statement is true. The article is...
Actually, nothing has been corrected. Wired magazine is a magazine, a publication that if they get it wrong, they will issue a correction. This has already been vetted, not just by Taylor Lorenz, but by all of her editors and everybody that is involved in this at Wired. It's already been vetted. And since this article came out, there have been no corrections published. I read the whole article. I refreshed it. I went down to the bottom. No corrections whatsoever. So him saying that none of this is true, prove it, Brian. Release the contract. You have the contract. Let it out. If it's untrue, show it to us. It's on you. You're the one making the accusation that she's lying. You have the responsibility to let this out. But instead, he's going on a tirade here telling her that she's lying.
Chorus, which is a nonprofit that I helped found to build up a creator ecosystem, which everybody says they want, but few are doing. So here's what Chorus is. It is a scholarship program to teach creators how to grow their accounts, foster engagement, launch their own shows, and become profitable on their own.
Wait a minute. A lot of these influencers that are in this article already have a huge following. Some of these people have over 1 million followers on either TikTok or Instagram or on YouTube. So this incubator program to help teach them how to do stuff, it seems like they already know how to do stuff. It seems like you sought these people out because they fit in that very narrow window of a centristy kind of dim that's not going to rock the boat too hard, not going to push back too hard on the Democratic Party, which is something that Tyler Cohen is pretty good at. He does not push back on the Democratic Party very hard. Certainly not when it comes to Israel and Gaza. But sorry, I digress.
An incubator program to build the pro-democracy ecosystem. Influencers and creators have never been more important when it comes to how Americans are consuming their news. The right has been doing this for years, and the left needs to catch up. That's what...
Look, I am not arguing that point with him, and I don't think Taylor Lorenz is arguing that point either. The left definitely needs to build up that kind of ecosystem. It's the fact that it is dark money that in the contract they mention that there are certain rules and regulations about, you used to be able to talk about this, but if you sign on this dotted line, now here's a bunch of stuff that you can't do. One of the influencers is like, if I got an interview with Zoran Mamdani and Chorus tells me I can't do it, and I signed on the contract, signed my name on the dotted line, then I can't interview Zoran Mamdani. That's not good, especially for somebody who is a fledgling creator. Anyway.
Doing this with Chorus. So let's talk about what Chorus is and what it's not. Chorus does not pay creators for content, does not tell them what to say, it does not control who they talk to or work with, and there is absolutely nothing in the contract that could even be reasonably interpreted to say that we do. Period. Full stop.
Then release the contract. Because according to Wired, it seems a little bit shady, a little bit sus.
I don't know a single creator who would willfully sign up for a program that would tell them what they can or can't say. That's not what this program is. We pay...
I just read you what it said. And yet again, I will repeat myself. There have been no corrections. And this article has been out for almost 2 weeks now. There have been no corrections issued. She has not, she didn't get anything wrong, or else they would have issued a correction. Now, I wanted to skip ahead to show you, look, he's sitting here saying that this is all well and good. It's all beatific and there's nothing to see here. Taylor Lorenz, she's bad. She's trying to tear apart the Democratic Party and, to drive a wedge between all of these good influencers out here and me and other, and my followers. She's just throwing a monkey in the wrench. She's not good people. And then towards the end of this thing is 5 minutes long. So it doesn't take him very long to get to this point. But I wanted you to see this to show you how this guy responded to this.
Never been more true than it is right now. Influencers and creators have never been more important when it comes to how Americans are consuming their news. The left is a decade behind right now. We desperately need incubators teaching and amplifying new content creators, and not just Chorus, by the way. There are other programs in this space doing the same thing. I want all of them to succeed. We need all of them to succeed. There are people like Taylor Lorenz who are desperate to tear the left apart, and in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Before I show you this, I want you to know something about Taylor Lorenz. Tucker Carlson while he was on Fox News, made it his, it was like a mission that he was on to go after Taylor Lorenz. He went after her so hard that her family got doxxed and swatted several times because people that watched Tucker Carlson hated her so goddamn much. Tucker spread the hate, and then a whole bunch of psychos out there decided to act on that hate. And this is what he says about Taylor Lorenz.
I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says. Do you get what I'm saying?
So yeah.
And then he cuts it off right there. That was an interview that Candace Owens did with Tucker Carlson. You notice how Tucker kind of chuckled and laughed there, and he cut it off right at the end of that. He hates Taylor Lorenz with a fucking passion. He hates her. And like I said, he caused her a lot of strife by talking so much shit about her when he was on Fox News, one of the most watched news programs of all time. The 8 p.m. slot on Fox News. That's where all of the Republicans go to get their political talking points. At that time was Tucker Carlson, and he went after Taylor Lorenz on a daily fucking basis. And now Tyler Cohen is so pissed off about this article that he is suggesting that Taylor Lorenz is buddies with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. You are a scumbag, man. To do that to her, that is way nastier than you have any right to do. And it was like a 6-second clip taken completely out of context. After they cut it off, Tucker Carlson immediately chuckles, laughs, and goes, I fucking hate her. I hate her. So obviously they're not friends, but Brian chopped up that video just enough for you to see, oh, wow. Taylor Lorenz and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are all buddies, and they're hanging out and they're having beers. And this is a hit job on me. Well, there's somebody else that's also involved in this. And sadly, it's David Pakman. David Pakman, after this article comes out, he puts out this video and says, I hate to admit this, but I have to. And he doesn't really talk about the article in this particular video, but he's alluding to it because he's talking about the same thing that Tyler Cohen is talking about, where they are trying to, get the Democratic influencers out there kind of all on the same page like Republicans do. And he's talking about in this video how he, as a podcaster and a political pundit, reached out to a congressional, a congressperson asking whether or not they were going to run again for election. And since he thought that, he's got like over 3 million subscribers. He's been in this game for a long ass time. He's pretty reputable, except for Israel. Yet again, just another one of these people just happens to not ever talk about the genocide that's going on in Israel. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Just put that on the back burner. But like I said, he's talking about this right here where he's reaching out to a congressperson, and, he's a big muckety buck. He's a big wig. And, one of the things that Taylor Lorenz mentioned was that, why would some of these influencers, why would they sign on the dotted line for such a little amount of money? I mean, if it's like $250, $500 a month, that's really nothing. Why would you sign on the dotted line? But, if you are an up and coming podcaster or an influencer and you hear the name David Pakman or Tyler Cohen, those are big names. That's networking. So maybe the money is not that big or not that large or long, but the reach those guys have and being able to be in the same room with them and being able to talk to certain politicians that are chorus approved, maybe that is the reason why you would sign up for something like this. Well, anyway, David Pakman is talking about how he reached out to this congressperson and he feels slighted because they did not, come back and kiss his ass and give him all the information he wanted.
I am trying to get in touch to figure out what is going on for 2026. Are you running for re-election? Are you not? Are you up for doing a debate? your challengers are asking me to appear. They're asking me for an endorsement, etc. I just want to touch base and figure out what's going on. I want to hear it from you before making any decisions about our coverage so that I ensure that our coverage is calibrated to, is this an open seat or is this an incumbent who's being challenged? Just want to touch base. I hear back from the office of this individual and they simply say, for any campaign questions, email info at a different website, which is clearly the campaign side, not the administrative.
So what he's saying is that they just gave him the standard boilerplate, hey, just email us and we'll get back to you when we get back to you. So he's sitting there going, you know, they're blowing me off. I'm David Pakman. Don't you know who the fuck I am? I'm David Pakman. Why are you blowing me off?
You know, congressional office of this person. Now, there's of course nothing wrong with saying we really only handle the legislative affairs. For anything related to the forthcoming election, you have to be in touch with the campaign. There's nothing wrong with that. But shuffling me off to an info at email, which goes into a black hole, it's just where all of the crap goes. I know we will never, ever, ever hear back. And this is the fundamental problem. That sort of way of dealing with independent media is how all of us will end up going, screw this elected official. Let's endorse the challenger. Let's fundraise for the challenger. This is exactly the problem that we are talking about. And so I reached out to my contact on the Hill and I said, listen, this is what happened.
He has a contact on the Hill.
This is exactly what I thought we were trying to fix when we went and met with the Biden administration and met with people from the House and met with people from the Senate in D.C.
Yeah, he met with the Biden administration. Here's a picture of him right here with old Joe Biden right there. I didn't realize that David Pakman was so short. Joe Biden is not that tall, but you know, whatevs. He got to go to the White House and meet the president. Aren't you cool? By the way, I wanted to look at some of his comments that you got here. Promoting Richie Torres as a progressive is just the latest example of corporate dark money influence on Pakman. For the record, not naming names, because he said he didn't want to name names in this story earlier in the video, not naming names is also part of the problem. You should absolutely name names. Democrat voters deserve to know which politicians are meeting the moment and which are not. Independent media has a definition. You don't meet it. So, you know, it's obvious that his followers, the people that watch his videos, they're not happy with what the article had to say, and they're not happy with the fact that he's kind of skirting around the issue. Now, a couple days later, he does another video, and this one is a lot more pointed at the article and Taylor Lorenz, and the title of it is Lawsuit for Defamation. Yet again, I will repeat myself. There have not been any corrections to the Wired article. So, defamation for what? Telling the truth? Let's have a listen.
Show like this, but I do have to talk today about a defamation lawsuit. After Wired published a piece last week that made a number of untrue allegations and implications about me and other creators, claiming I'm taking money in exchange for letting someone dictate the content of this show or restrict what I'm talking about, and many other claims and implications.
Look, I will say right now that somebody the size of David Pakman is probably not getting dictated to about what the talking point should be. I think somebody like David Pakman is large enough that he doesn't need to do that. It was in the picking process that he already qualifies for all of the things that Chorus would want out of a podcaster or an influencer and their front-facing opinions. They liked the cut of his jib, and since his name is so big, it's going to look really good at the top of the sheet. So the $8,000 a month, which, by the way, this guy makes a lot of money. He's very successful at what he does. He's very popular. So $8,000 a month is probably not swaying him one way or the other. I think that it's very much in the picking process. Chorus chose David Pakman because he already fits the criteria. He is supportive of the Democratic Party. He doesn't push too hard against them, and he doesn't talk about Israel. And ultimately, I think that that is the crux of this, because all of the other influencers that were named in the article, they're all very similar, very centristy, milquetoasty liberals who don't really talk about what's going on in Gaza.
A bunch of you wrote to me and said, David, are you going to sue for defamation? Suing for defamation and winning is really the way to take control back and to prove that you didn't do the things you're accused of. Now, it's a fair...
By the way, if you sue for defamation, if you do any lawsuit, there's going to be disclosure. And that when there is disclosure, that means that the contract has got to come out. And if the contract lines up with everything that was in the article, there goes your defamation suit out the fucking window. And now all the information's out there. So threatening a suit of defamation is really good for your audience, and it makes, lets you puff up your chest a little bit. But I highly doubt that he is going to be suing for defamation. Or else corrections would have already been written in the article. It's been almost 2 weeks since this came out.
And I want to talk about that today. I didn't even plan on mentioning this entire fiasco again, but it really has taken on a life of its own. So I'm going to get to the am I suing for defamation question in a moment, but I also want to lay out a few other things. The saddest part for me in all of this is that even though, after the first 48 hours, the overwhelming majority of my audience members and fellow creators and others realize there's really no story here. Like it's not even just the allegations and implications are untrue. It's just there's not even really a story here.
Oh, honey, why are you talking about it if it's not a big story, it's not a big deal? I want to get to something here. This was, David Pakman has been doing this for, I want to say, over a dozen years. So he's been in this game for a minute. And he is pretty knowledgeable about a lot of things going on in the political world. Maybe I'll let it play a little bit more. And no, you know what? I'm just going to skip ahead to this. This is the thing that everybody seemed to be having a problem with.
Has misunderstood it, went on and did stories about it. Some people have decided to cancel the David Pakman show. I don't know how to fix that part yet. What we have here is Brian Tyler Cohen.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. He's saying he's getting canceled? 3.31 million followers getting canceled? Oh, okay. You don't look canceled.
Money for a project he doesn't take a penny from. It's not nefarious subterfuge of any kind. It's Brian.
So it's fake news.
Of course I supported it because I know Brian and I know his intentions, and it's a great thing. Now, maybe the worst part of this is that other creators, some, although most now are kind of like there's no story here, but some creators in the first 48 hours took the Wired story and expanded it with even more outrageous claims, suggesting that it's APAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. APAC.
What? Give me a fucking break. I don't even know how it's pronounced. Corruption. Corruption. I don't even know how it's pronounced. Look, I'm not saying that APAC is doing any of the funding here. Nobody's making that accusation, but he's just sitting there going, APAC, IPAC, I don't even know how it's pronounced. Man, don't piss down my leg and tell me it's fucking raining. You sound like a Republican here. I'm waiting for him to go, fake news. It's all a hoax, a Wired hoax. Just the failing Wired magazine. They're out to get me, folks. They're out to get me and Brian Tyler Cohen. It's all lies. Don't believe it. Don't believe the hype. I'm the only one that's being honest. APAC, IPAC, whatever it's called. Let's look at his comments on this one. I don't even know how to pronounce corruption. David Pakman. It's nice to see the comment section roasting you, Dave. Nobody is on your side on this. AIPAC? Who is this? Never heard of him. They said to me, sir, because people call me sir. They said, sir, people are saying that you're still for AIPAC or IPAC. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I said to him, IPAC? iPatch? A-Stack? Never heard of him. So yeah, I don't even know how to say it. I see what you did there, buddy. Can't trust anybody taking dark money. If you want to fix us, show us the contract, the whole thing, word for word. So glad to see your audience is much smarter than you give them credit for. I live in Sweden, and English is my third language, and even I know what AIPAC is, and also how to pronounce it. What an insult to everyone's intelligence to pretend to be unaware. David, my sweet, sweet summer child. You and Brian taking on the attributes of the Republicans and especially Donald Trump, you just did everything but call it fake news. What are we doing here? Now, look, let's not just pick on the Democrats on this. I just wanted to point this out just as a little bookend to this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a gentleman named Tim Pool. He does this thing called the Tim Cast. I've actually got a story later on in the show about old Timothy Pool. He calls himself a centrist podcaster. Not a centrist. He's not right or left, but he always argues for the right-wing position. So he's a fucking right-winger, and he knows it. But he put up a post on Twitter the other day saying high-profile accounts that get paid to post political propaganda without disclosing should be insta-banned. Now, you would think he's repeating basically what I said. Look, I'm not saying that these people should be banned. I don't think Tyler Cohen or David Pakman should be banned or canceled or anything. I think they're just being criticized, and they don't like being criticized. It's not anybody's canceling you. They're just holding you to account, which is something that the Republicans don't seem to do to their politicians, but Democrats should, because we're supposed to be better than that. But obviously not. Anyway, Tim Pool, Mr. Republican over here that's not a Republican, decides to get holier than thou and say something that I have been saying. Well, let me remind you. How Russian operatives covertly hired U.S. influencers to create viral videos. That right there in this picture is Benny Johnson standing next to Donald Trump's third favorite child, maybe fourth favorite, Eric. And federal officials have accused Russia of using unwitting right-wing American influencers in its quest to spread Kremlin propaganda ahead of the 2024 presidential election. On Wednesday, the Justice Department charged 2 employees of RT, that's Russia Today, the Russian state media broadcaster, in the scheme to secretly fund and direct the production of social media videos that racked up millions of views. The company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to RT and the Russian government, Attorney General Merrick Garland said on Wednesday. Now, let's get down to it. Just really quickly, if you've not heard about this Tenet Media scandal, it was a pretty big deal last year. Details in the indictment matched Nashville, Tennessee-based Tenet Media, including its website description, a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western politics and cultural issues. Tenet was founded in 2022 by a woman named Laura Chen, a conservative Canadian YouTuber, and she's not even American. Canadian YouTuber and her husband, Leon Donovan, whose Twitter profile describes him as president of Tenet Media. Chen's hosts a show on Glenn Beck's Blaze TV and is contributor to right-wing activist group Turning Point USA. So she is all tied up in all this right-wing stuff. She wrote opinion pieces on RT in 2021 and 2022. According to the indictment, Tennessee company founders worked with Kalashnikov and I'm not even going to try, sorry, who knew that they were Russians, to recruit influencers to make videos that were published across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. The indictment said that nearly 2,000 YouTube videos amassed more than 16 million views, which tracks with public statistics on Tenet Tenet Media's YouTube channel. Chen and Donovan didn't respond to a request for comment on this. So let's get to who was involved in this. There he is, Mr. Timothy Poole himself. By the way, Tim Poole, he's not an old guy. He's not a young guy either. I think he's probably pushing 40. But he has been bald since, he was like a baby. And you never see him without this hat on his head. Even when he is going to a formal event and wearing a suit and tie, he's still got that hat on his head. Obviously, he's got an issue with his bald head. And we've all seen, if you know Tim Poole at all, you've probably seen that one video where somebody snuck up behind him and snatched the hat off, and he is cue ball bald. I don't really care about that. I care that he is hiding it from everybody, and he seems to hang around with a whole bunch of skater punks. Tenet publicly launched in November 2023 with 6 contributors well known to right-wing media, including Benny Johnson, Tim Poole, Dave Rubin, Lorenz. The videos they created for Tenet regularly cover conservative staples, including migrant gangs, transgender people, online censorship, and attacks on Vice President Harris and President Joe Biden. While the views expressed in the videos are not uniform, the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russian interests, such as its ongoing war in the Ukraine. So all of these influencers were going out there doing videos saying how bad Ukraine is and how they're the bad guy in this situation. Even though Russia did the invading, Ukraine is the bad guy in this situation, and we should stop funding them. And all of these influencers were saying that. It's kind of what I was saying before about Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen. It's not that they are being told what to say. It's that they were picked because of the things that they already say. Except in this case, we're not talking about anywhere between $250 a month and $8,000 a month. We're talking much, much more. The indictment accuses Kalashnikov and that other person of working with the Tennessee company's founders, concealed the true origins of its funding. They told some contributors that the company, this is Laura Chen talking to these influencers. They told some of those people that the company was being backed by a wealthy European banker named Edward Gregorian. They even published a picture, which is not in this article, of Edward Gregorian, just a plain picture of a guy sitting on a private plane, or at least next to a window on a private plane, and his face is kind of fuzzed out so you can't see his face. But, it looks like a wealthy guy sitting on a private plane, and that was the picture that they used. This guy is not real. Edward Gregorian is a fake fucking name. In truth and in fact, Gregorian, it was a fictional persona, the indictment said. The influencer said that they were unaware of the project's Russian connection. So they're getting paid. Let's get to it here. Let me see here. Let me just read the rest of this. The influencer said they were unaware of the project Russia's connection. On Wednesday, Johnson, Poole, and Dave Rubin posted statements on X describing themselves as victims. Victims that got paid a metric fuck ton of money, but they're victims. They're victims in all this. Victims, they got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Southern didn't respond to requests for comment. Quote, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived, Poole wrote. I know absolutely nothing about any of the fraudulent activity, period, wrote Rubin. Johnson said that he had been pitched by a media startup and had negotiated a standard arm's length deal, which was later terminated. His most recent video on Tenet Media's YouTube channel is from August 29th of 2024. The Tennessee company offered lucrative terms, according to the indictment. One influencer was paid $400,000 a month. A minute ago, we were talking about $8,000 a month is life-changing. $4,000 a month, $100,000 signing bonus, and additional performance bonuses for exchange for 4 videos a week. So they're getting paid over $500,000 a month to what? Just do the same thing that they're doing? The question isn't whether or not, oh, I'm a victim because I didn't know anything about this. No, the question is, how come you didn't know anything about this? Some strange oligarch from out of nowhere that you've never heard of is offering you $500,000 a month? Doesn't that make you go, who is asking me to do this, and for what and why? So, I mean, either the question is, either this is the kind of money that you get paid on the regular from other shady people, or that you don't bother to look into somebody who is paying you $500,000 a month just because they like you. Either way, that dog won't hunt, and it looks shady as shit. So when this gentleman right here, this young man, Timothy Poole, puts up a post that says high-profile accounts that get paid to post political propaganda without disclosing should be insta-banned, you need to take a step back and shut the fuck up. Sit your ass down and shut the fuck up. Nobody needs to hear, sorry, going back to the page 1 here. Nobody needs to hear any of that nonsense. Nobody needs to hear you, glad handing yourself and patting yourself on the back, or, getting a little holier than thou about what somebody else is doing when you are doing exactly the same thing, except 100 times more. So anyway, look, this kind of shit, this dark money shit, I'm not saying that it started back with Citizens United. Dark money has been a thing for a long ass time. But watching Democrats do the same thing as MAGA influencers out there without any kind of disclosure, you might say, hey, we're fighting fire with fire. But no, you're fighting corruption with corruption. It's a different story. When Gavin Newsom is fighting back against Texas for redistricting their and re-gerrymandering their map illegally, and then saying, well, if you're going to do that, we weren't going to do it, but now we are going to do it. That's fighting fire with fire. When you are getting paid dark money from unnamed sources and have a contract that tells you certain things you can't say, certain things you can say, and have daily check-ins with talking points, and you can't have a lawyer look over your contract, it sounds like something that a dark money Republican would do, and it's not good. It doesn't look good. It makes you look bad. And then you add to it that knee-jerk reaction from Tyler Cohen calling Taylor Lorenz a internet troll and insinuating that she's buddies with somebody who has doxed her and her family numerous times, or had them doxed, with Candace Owens, who is a fucking psycho, and you're putting those people in the same barrel. Brian, you are a commentator just like me. You're more popular than me, but you're a commentator, man. David Pakman, you're a fucking commentator. You're a political pundit. Taylor Lorenz is an actual journalist with journalistic integrity, who actually did the legwork, made the phone calls, verified sources, had them backed up, had her editors go over everything, make sure it was backed up before they published it. And they have not made one correction in the last 2 weeks since the story's been out. It is on you to prove her wrong, not for her to throw her informant under the bus, to release the contract to get them in trouble or to get her in trouble. That's journalistic integrity, which obviously neither one of you have. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.